But now Western Czechoslovakia was surrounded by the new Greater Germany. Here were the industrial powerhouses of the Czech state, the factories and the mines. Here too were fortifications vital for Czech defense. The Czechs had an efficient, well-equipped army, but against the enemy within, they had few defenses. 3 million Germans lived in Czechoslovakia, mostly in the frontier area called the Sudetenland. Propaganda from the new German Reich across the border was increasing the dislike and contempt they felt for their Czech rulers. In April 1938, Konrad Henlein, leader of the Nazi-backed German Sudeten Party, demanded self-government for the Sudetenland. It was a cruel demand. The Czechs stood to lose not just the Germans, but their industrial strength and their defenses as well. The Czech president, Beneš, seemed to have the choice of hanging on to the Sudetenland at the risk of war with Germany, or giving it up to live in peace. If he decided not to give it up, Beneš could count on the support of a Czech people angered by the Germans' demands. He could send out mobilization papers to his army and hope to call Henlein's and Hitler's bluff. Beneš could also appeal for help to France, Czechoslovakia's ally since 1924. But that was a prospect which alarmed the French government, led by Edward Daladier. In April, Daladier flew to London to sound out the British reaction. But he was to be told by Chamberlain to expect no help from Britain in a war over the Sudetenland. The Maginot Line was in fact where France's policy stopped. An immensely strong system of fortifications the French had built along the German border. This was France's answer to any future threats from Germany in the West. But from the concrete turrets of this expensive hidey-hole, the Sudetenland looked a very long way away. Hitler pressed harder. On Sunday, the 12th of September at Nuremberg, he demanded self-determination for the Sudeten Germans and threatened to send them military assistance. Taking encouragement from Hitler, the Sudeten Germans began to arm themselves. The situation threatened to embroil Europe in war, and Britain with it. The British Prime Minister, entirely on his own initiative, decided to intervene. He flew to meet Hitler, the German Führer, face to face in an attempt to save the peace. At Berchtesgaden, Chamberlain, without consulting his cabinet, the French or the Czechs, gave in to Hitler. He conceded self-determination for the Sudeten Germans. This was appeasement in action. Now his peace plan had to be put to the French and the Czechs. On the 18th of September, Daladier came to Downing Street to discuss the terms. Eventually, he too accepted Hitler's demands. Now everything depended on the response of the Czechs. If they decided to resist, they would have to stand alone. While enemy forces took up positions along their borders, they decided to accept the terms. A triumphant Chamberlain set off to tell Hitler the good news.
European peace is what I am aiming at, and I hope that this journey may open the way to get it.
Chamberlain's second journey to see Hitler at Bad Godesberg was humiliating. There were new demands. The Sudetenland must be surrendered at once. Polish and Hungarian claims on Czech lands must be met. Chamberlain refused to accept. Suddenly, war seemed very close. Flying back to London, Chamberlain looked down at the flimsy housing estates and pictured them laid waste by bombs. The Prime Minister expressed the anxiety and the puzzlement of his people.
How horrible, fantastic, incredible it is that we should be digging trenches and trying on gas masks here. because of a quarrel in a faraway country between people of whom we know nothing. War is a fearful thing. We must be very clear before we embark on it that it is really the great issues that are at stake.
The Home Secretary made his appeal to the nation.
I appeal for 1 million men and women to help us with our work. I've had a splendid response. We are going to get our 1 million, but I want all you to come in and give in your names to help us in this great job.
Plans were made to move children out of the threatened capital. Hurriedly, more aircraft were being turned out. Britain's air defenses were still weak and thinly spread. There had to be a way out. At the very least, enough time to get the aircraft program off the ground. When Mussolini suggested a four-power conference, Chamberlain seized the chance. Perhaps it was still not too late to settle the Czech question by international agreement rather than war.
When I come back, I hope I may be able to say, as Hotspur says in Henry IV, out of this nettle danger, we pluck this flower safety.
Germany, France and Britain came to an agreement to hand over the Sudetenland to Germany. The Czechs were not consulted. They were free to resist by themselves if they wanted to. And the peace of Europe was guaranteed by another document signed by Hitler and Chamberlain, the famous piece of paper.
I had another talk with the German Chancellor, Herr Hitler. And here is the paper which bears his name upon it as well as mine. We regard the agreement signed last night and the Anglo-German naval agreement as symbolic of the desire of our two peoples never to go to war with one another again.
Posterity will thank God, as we do now, that in the time of desperate need our safety was guarded by such a man, Neville Chamberlain.